ask for a pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Susie, roll call, please.
Councilmember Groves.
I am here.
Councilmember Chambers is absent. Councilmember Salzweedl.
Here.
Councilmember Barkus.
Here.
And Mayor DeWolf.
Here.
I'll make a motion to excuse Marty's absence.
I'll support.
Discussion. Motion and a second to approve Marty's absence. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? He's excused. For the consent agenda, we do need to remove number B from new business. They were not able to ski their way out here tonight because of the roads. I have no other changes. Mike, are you good? Yep. Okay. Look then for a motion to approve the consent agenda with that change.
I'll make that motion.
I'll support.
Discussion? Sue?
Councilmember Groves.
Yes.
Mayor DeWolf.
Yes.
Councilmember Salzweedl.
Yes.
And Councilmember Barkus.
Yes.
Public comment for items not on the agenda. All right. Nothing under old business. New business number A, fiscal audit.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. My name is Peter Hefner. I represent Bradeveld Hefner, the firm of independent certified public accountants that conducted the audit for the city for the year ended June 30th, 2023. And this year, your audit was conducted in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards and government auditing standards. And government auditing standards are required to be followed when, by your auditors when conducting an audit of the financial statements and of compliance with federal grant requirements. And that compliance requirement was conducted this year because you received over and expended over $750,000 in federal financial assistance. That's primarily the result of the funding for your projects that's coming through the USDA. There was also some ARPA funding that was expended during the year. The result of conducting our audit this year is that we have an opinion on page 1 on your financial statements. We also have opinions on pages 77 and 79. And I'm going to start with the opinion on page 1. I'm going to summarize it. It's our opinion that the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position, results of operations, cash flows where applicable, of your governmental activities, the business type activities, each major fund, the aggregate remaining funds, the aggregate component units, in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So that's what I would refer to as a clean opinion. And that you are following the standards that are required to be followed by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. So this report is presented in accordance with those standards. The opinion that is on page 77 is our opinion on your system of internal controls over financial reporting. And that opinion is, I would refer to it as a clean opinion. That is that we did not identify any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in your system of internal controls in place to accumulate and compile the information within your financial statements. And the third opinion that we have is on page 79. That's our opinion on your compliance with federal grant requirements. And that opinion, within it, we did not identify any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses with your system of internal controls over compliance. We did find one technical issue, which was procurement suspension debarment. Brought that to the attention of management. They identified an approach to address it, but it was not considered a material weakness or a significant deficiency. With that being said, I have put together some slides of your governmental activities. That's where our opinion is. Your business type activities, each major fund, as well as several other funds that we're going to take a look at, if we may. And it just gives you a historical perspective of where the dollars are coming from, where the dollars go to, what is the balance at the end of a given year. So if we could proceed to the first slide, we're taking a look at the bottom line of your statement of net position and what are net assets for your governmental activities. So this is looking at general fund, major, local street funds, and all of those other governmental funds combined together. Full accrual basis of accounting, including all of your capital assets, all of your long-term liabilities. The top line is your investment in capital assets. You can see that that climbed in 21, 22, 23 declined. That's the result of building the showboat and then transferring the showboat to Showboat 5 or 6 organization. So the capital asset was on your books and then that was transferred. So that's the big driver of the top line. Then we have the restricted balance. That's typically looking at the dollars of the major and local street funds and other restricted dollars that are not within the general fund. And then we have the unrestricted component, and that unrestricted component went down in 14, 15, et cetera, Now it's actually coming back up. That represents the implementation of new accounting standards where we're putting the liability associated with your pension on your books and your other post-employment benefit plan on your books. And the extent that that's funded was driving that bottom line primarily. Next picture we have, this is your business type activities. So water and sewer, looking at your investment in capital, put multiple millions of dollars into capital. I suspect that's going to be continuing with the projects that are underway. So you put dollars into investment in capital assets and you've exchanged unrestricted dollars to fund some of that. And the very bottom line is just the extent to which you have restricted dollars. Now keep in mind that this is water, sewer, also light power. But substantial investment in capital, which is infrastructure for your water, sewer, and electric system. The next picture that we have, this is looking at your selected fund balance. And if this was in your board packet, I changed this slide. For some reason, it wasn't presenting properly. The balances were proper within the data, but the format of the graph was not correct, so I modified this before I came this evening. But this is just looking at what is going on with the general fund, major and local street funds. Those are the largest 3 governmental funds that you have. And I wanted to point out the general fund decline is primarily resulting in the local street increase because there is such a substantial transfer over for projects that weren't completed. So that decline in the general fund is 100% resulting in the increase in the local street dollars available for street projects. And then major street. Those major and local street funds up and down over time based on what is being received from the state, and the road projects really drive this, and bad weather as well.
You should also know, just the way we do it is when the marijuana funds come in, they go in through the general fund and out to the local streets. So that's part of this as well.
Now the next slide that we have is looking at your general fund alone, and is looking at the categories of expenditures. This is the modified accrual basis of accounting, or cash in or cash out. So for example, if you buy or you make improvements to this building that are capital related, a business would capitalize it. These governmental activities would show it as an expenditure. It's only capitalized at the government-wide level. So we can see general government's up. It's primarily the result of the categories within general government. More environmental review, additional costs of this building, improvements, assessing is more expensive. Virtually every category is more expensive. It's inflation. But also category by category, you can see something pop up and then it'll decline. Public safety, historically the largest investment of the city, putting police in place, fire in place, and then public works, culture and recreation. Public works to a large extent is included in when we're looking at major and local streets as well. So this is just the general fund component of public works, but historically over time very consistent. The next slide that we have is looking at one of your business type activities. You look at each of them. Here is your sewer fund. You can see in 2023, additional costs resulted in a decline in your net position at the end of the year or a loss. And the next slide that we have, water fund, 2023, additional expenses resulted in a loss. I think there was a large cost associated with disposal of lime that year for the current year. So I think $200,000 of those costs were, and I believe that's the number, correct me if I'm wrong.
Is this showing the liability loss with the pension liability?
Yep, and this-
And the depreciation?
This also reflects depreciation and the fluctuation in the pension liability, which the pension liability did change from the previous year. It was a poor year of performance by MERS. It was actually a loss year on the investment side, and that drives these numbers in the business type activities. Also drives the government-wide perspective, the first slides that we were looking at.
But those are non-cash transactions.
Exactly. Depreciation is non-cash. The change in the liability for the pension or the OPEB are non-cash transactions. But a large component of that, I believe, was some of the disposal costs as well. That is done infrequently.
About every 5-9 years.
Right. The last slide that I have for the business type activities, this is light and power, and it's at a little different scale. So here we're talking $10 million worth of revenues, approximately $9 million of revenues, and an increase in net position. You can see pretty much consistently adding dollars to net position, and they're therefore able to fund some of the capital needs of the light and power without having to go to the debt market. Again, this would include depreciation and expense, so a non-cash transaction. Their component of the pension plan and their OPEB plan also reflected in these numbers for the current year, but consistently we have 6 years of positive growth for light and power. So I've talked about your governmental activities, your business type activities, the major funds, which are the general, water, sewer, electric, and then I added in major and local because they're not the biggest funds, therefore they're not presented in the front of the audit, but yet there are consistently a lot of projects and things, and thought it was important to share those with you. From my perspective, the audit went quite smoothly. Worked with staff, we got information in advance, provided some assistance with capital assets, pension calculation, worked with Light and Power before we did the city audit because it merges in with your audit, and presented to their board multiple months ago. Are there questions I can answer about the audit? If not, I have my advertising slide as the last one. But we appreciate the opportunity to work with the city. We work with the folks at Light and Power, talk to them throughout the year and the city, so if there's issues or accounting questions, or there's a new bond issue or things of that nature, they feel comfortable contacting us. We try to give them some guidance or work through questions and do research before we get out here to do the audit.
I have a question for Mike Burns. It doesn't need to be addressed tonight, but I'd like to understand more about the cash we have on hand per day down the road as we look at that, as I've been looking at, see how that...
We have about 400 days. For the water and the wastewater fund, we have approximately 400 days cash on hand.
Okay, and what does that mean dollar-wise? Is it $200,000? Is it X number
I
of dollars?
want to say it's 1.5 million in the wastewater, 1.6 in the water.
Okay. Is that normal? Is that kind of high many days, that $400?
It seems, yeah, we're looking at, we have some capital projects that we probably should spend down some of that
Okay.
cash.
Yeah, just want to know what that
Yeah, I was looking at, matter of fact, we're looking at that with some of the projects we have. We have some smaller projects that we probably can just use some cash on hand to address it. I mean, for bonding purposes, I think in a perfect world, they want 200 days cash on hand. At least the bond marketers do. It's not uncommon to have 90 to 120 days cash on hand, but we've had a lot of cash.
It's
So
better to me have the access more amount than less at this point because of where we stand in the
Correct.
economy and everything else, so.
And matter of fact, we're actually going to use some cash on hand because inflation has taken what it has, especially with our bond analysis, our revenue and our rate analysis. So we're trying to use that cash, we're going to use a little bit of that cash in hand so we don't have to maybe raise rates as much as we
Right,
need to.
that's what I'm hoping happens.
Yeah, we're working with that. We're working with Warren Kramer on that right now.
Thank you. That was it.
Yep. I have a question regarding the pension plan summary on your page 50. I was just looking at, over the years, this past year was the first year there was a significant loss in the investment income. And I know this is MERS, this isn't really our board. But is the 60% in your page 50, you've got planned fiduciary net position as a percentage of the total pension liability?
Yes.
60%?
Yep.
Is that the same 60% that, Mike, you talk about with the state and the thresholds for?
Yes,
Unfunded liability?
yes and no, because the way MERS calculates, the way for audit purposes, they do what the actual amount is. The way MERS calculates it, it's called a smoothing mechanism. So they take that loss and spread it over 5 years. So the percentages that we get from MERS are different than what we would get in our audit.
Yeah, so your actuarial evaluation is how your actuary calculates what you need to contribute, and they are smoothing your investments over a 5-year period. So they get the roughness out. And you're correct, in 2022, a loss for the pension of $1.3 million when it was expected that you would make $1.3 million. So a differential there of 2.6, which the actuary will smooth out over a 5-year period. When the state's looking at your funding, I think they say, okay, minimum 60%, or you have to meet a couple other criteria. And you were above 60%. This was a pretty unusual year. And actually this 2024 may actually turn things, 2023 may change things because it was quite good in the last quarter. But this statement is totally based on the actuary says you need X. What's the market value? Where your actuary is telling you to fund the plan with smoothed asset values.
Good. So, because I know we're greater than 60 with the MERS figures.
We're
So
67.
We were improving.
Yes.
So that's good. I want to.
My guess is this year we probably will not, we might go down a little bit on the MERS actually because of this, because of the stock market. I'm anticipating we'll probably go, we won't, I don't believe we'll trigger 60%, but I believe we'll go down a little bit, probably 2-3%, I'm thinking.
And as you can see, for 2021, it was nearly 70%. It was 69% funded. It's really market value fluctuation totally driving that. Now, also in 2023, you provided additional funding to MERS, which will be reflected in that 2023 report, which will be out in like 5 months. That'll be used for your next audit. So that'll also be reflected going forward. And within general government, the increase in expense, I forgot to mention it, that general government category included your excess contribution to the pension.
This year there'll be no excess contribution, but other than the surplus that we were setting aside because we re-amortized the payments. But we won't be putting, like last couple of years, we've been putting $100,000, $200,000. That's just not possible this year.
All right. Thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thanks, Pete.
Thank you.
Number B, Monroe Street Island. Michael.
So, yep, I got it. Yep. So with the completion of Monroe, we are considering implementing traffic calming measures on Monroe Street. The primary concern is the need to divert truck traffic from Monroe traveling to and from Atwood and direct it toward Jefferson Street. Now that Monroe is complete, we have an opportunity to install an island on Monroe between Main Street and Avery. The installation of an island aims to address 2 issues. The first one I mentioned. The second is to eliminate also the hazardous left turn from southbound Monroe to eastbound Main Street. The Downtown Development Authority has expressed interest in financing the island project at this location, ensuring it's landscape to enhance aesthetics. There are two key steps for the project. Firstly, we propose changing the designation of the stretch of roadway from major to local street. It's crucial to note that we don't intend to reclassify all of Monroe as a local street, as doing so would result in a significant loss of Act 51 funds. However, the impact of changing the designation for this 1/10 of a mile stretch would be minimal. Avery Street between Jefferson and Monroe remains a major street, so this adjustment should not pose an issue. The subsequent steps involve securing funding from the DDA, which has expressed their willingness to support the project. We have provided two cost estimates for project consideration. Additionally, we are exploring the possibility of adding a few parking spaces on Monroe in this area. The higher estimate includes built-in parking stalls, where the lower estimate involves simply lining parking spaces on Monroe. To proceed, the City Council's support is essential for both the street designation change and the approval of the budget expenditure pending DDA approval for the final construction. I'm recommending the Lowell City Council endorse the proposed traffic calming measures on Monroe Street. And in your packet, we do have a sketch. The length of the island basically goes from Main and Monroe all the way just before the entrance to the parking lot where the beer store is. We would probably bring it in a little bit. We thought it might have been a little too far. This drawing also takes into account additional building and parking stalls on both the east and west side of Monroe. But like that, that's going to be, but we have two options. We can either just, we can cement it and build in the stalls, or we can just line it. It doesn't, it really, I think probably the first option looks a little bit better than just lining the spaces, and it's only about $17,000 more according to the estimate. So to me, it makes sense to do. I'd ask that the DDA would fund this, so obviously there'd be no ask from general fund or any major local street funds to do that. But we just want to see if you'd be okay with this if we did move forward with this. DDA would like to actually possibly do this before summertime, if you were on board with it.
Could you still turn left to go north on Monroe if you're coming off Main Street?
If you're coming off Main Street, you can still go left. But what it also does is, what we're trying to do is eliminate that truck traffic. The one thing trucks hate are those islands. And I'm sure Marty can tell you that.
And right hand when you turn.
Yes.
And delivery trucks coming behind the beer store, would be required to go back out to Avery and go up?
Yeah, and which a
turning?
lot of them have been doing anyway. A lot of them, at least during the Monroe project, they've been coming down, they've been coming down Washington or Jefferson to Avery. So, I mean, it really doesn't impact them. We're trying to find a way to keep the trucks going off Monroe, and this is probably the best solution to do that. And then also, I mean, eventually, we're still looking at speed bumps and all of that, but at least this right here tries to at least get some trucks off.
Yeah, I like it.
And then the construction cost is based on what Williams and Work shows us?
Yeah, it's either 100 or 83,000.
Okay.
So it's one of those options. It doesn't include a sewer lining. There is a sewer lining that has to be done on the other side of Monroe Street. That wasn't part of the Monroe Street project, but they just included that in there.
From a standpoint of trees, anything going to be in that island? Nothing? Grass? Small bushes? I don't think we want some large trees with root bounds.
No, we'd want salt resistant. We'd want salt resistant, low level landscaping.
Yeah.
Things that look aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, I couldn't tell what that.
And at this point in time, at this point in
I
time,
think that's a tree.
Yeah, there's no
Shrubs.
Yeah, more shrubs, low level stuff.
Yep.
Than no big trees or anything like that.
Any other questions for Mike? Motion to recommend endorsing traffic calming measures.
I'll make that motion.
I'll support.
Any other discussion? Sue?
Councilmember Salzweedl,
Yes.
Councilmember Barkus,
Yes.
Councilmember Groves,
No.
and Mayor DeVore.
Yes. All right, number C, Jefferson sewer repair.
During the 2013 flood event, there was a sewer line that deteriorated on Jefferson Street from Kent to Main Street. At the time, the city only replaced the line going north to the mid-block between Main Street and Kent, meaning the northern portion of the line was never addressed due to cost. In 2023, we televised the line, and it was apparent the line deteriorated to where root balls were merging through the line. This 125-foot stretch of line needs full replacement. Estimated construction cost for the project is $144,679.50. Attached is a proposal for design engineering at a cost not to exceed $9,000, which includes an allowance for soil borings. Our staff has been very adamant that this line get replaced. I should have brought the televised, the video of when I went look at the televised line. It's pretty bad. And but I recommend the Lowell City Council approve design engineering to replace the sewer line on on Jefferson Street from Main Street, approximately 25 feet south towards Kent Street, at a cost not to exceed $9,000. We would try to work this project in conjunction as an add-on to the Washington Street project.
My question was, after I saw the 9,000 and I looked down from Williams and Working, there's a $707,000.
No.
That shouldn't be there at all?
No, no. So the only part of this project we're looking at is the 107,000, the Jefferson.
144?
No, not the 416. So if you take the 107,
Yes.
then you add 35%, that's how you got the 144.
Okay.
That 416, that's Kent Street. So Kent Street's already been,
Oh, I see.
Kent Street has already been, it's been engineered, and it's just gonna be a matter of whether or not we want to add, because one of the things we're proposing is adding water and sewer line in that area. This is an imminent need. This needs to be addressed. Those are nice to haves,
Okay.
because if you're doing the street, it makes sense to do it. But if costs turn out that we really can't afford to do that, we wouldn't do. The only thing we would do is actually just pave Kent
Okay,
Street.
so to fix Kent Street would be another $707,000.
No, it would be $416,000 plus 35%.
Okay.
But if you take out,
Oh, I see.
there's two
Total,
parts.
gotcha.
But if you take out all the sewer stuff, it's only about 100 and just to repay. And that's already been budgeted. It's like $160,000 for paving it. But we're still trying to determine whether or not we'll be able to add those lines because we have some other areas that we're looking at as well. So that might be of greater need. So. We're still trying to figure that out.
Anything else for Jefferson? Motion to approve the design engineering.
I'll support.
Discussion. Sue?
Councilmember Barkus,
Yes.
Councilmember Groves,
Yes.
Mayor DeVore,
Yes.
Councilmember Salzweedl.
Yes.
Number D, hydro core.
Okay, well, tonight we have two professional service agreements before you to perform cross-connection control program, which is required from our city charter. Cross-connection control program is basically a mechanism to keep our drinking water safe by eliminating potential where contaminants can get into the system. We've been using HydroCorp for a number of years, and we'd like to continue that professional relationship. And in your packet tonight, there's two cost proposals, one for residential, one for commercial. And I included in there the percentage of increase from the last contract that they had here. And if you agree to fund this tonight, we will pull money from the water distribution fund. And if there's any questions, by the way, we have a gentleman here from HydroCorp if you have a real technical question that I can't answer.
Is it just, do we do this every year? Is it a one-year contract?
This one is a 2-year. We've done 3 years in the past. This one's a 2-year.
Got me stumped on this one, Mike. I don't have a question. I know, Sean.
Come on, Jim.
Make one up.
I couldn't even make one up. I viewed it, so this one's over my head.
I know he's sitting right there, but you've been happy with their services for the time that you've been here?
They've done very well for us.
All right.
I've got to ask, from personal experience, at least twice I've called to make the appointments, and They took my name in that, and they told me that the inspector would be in the next few months. But then I still received a shut-off notice twice. And maybe it's just a misunderstanding or how the records are kept, but when a resident makes the appointment, and I believe through Sue and then through HydroCorp, somehow, at least for me, twice I got a shut-off notice. So I hope we can improve that going forward, because it was a little uncomfortable.
I mean, operations handles that side of it, but I mean, it sounds like to me just a miscommunication somewhere along the line, but I mean, obviously, you attempted to schedule, it sounds like.
Right, yeah, I called and I did schedule twice, and then I just want to make sure there's coordination once the resident schedules, that the city knows about that. And like I said, I don't know how it happened, but it did happen for me.
I'll follow up on our end as well and see.
Super.
Especially, I mean, yeah, if you scheduled, I mean, it shouldn't have been an issue, so.
When the inspector, both times, very, very professional, very polite, did a good job, so no complaints there. Just a little bit of record keeping.
How often should a residential person be contacted? A minimum of 135 a year is what you do? I can honestly say I don't think I've ever been contacted
I don't think I've
since 2006, so.
I don't know the intricacies of frequency of inspections, but generally, anybody who has, on the residential side, anybody who has an irrigation system should get inspected.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions for Rich? Motion to approve the HydroCorp contract for 2 years.
I'll make that motion.
I'll support.
Discussion? Sue?
Councilmember Groves,
Yes.
Mayor DeVore,
Yes.
Councilmember Salzweedl.
Yes.
And Councilmember Barkus.
Yes.
Leah, board and commission report?
I did my first month this month. I did September. Just kind of going through Christmas and all that happens during December. And then we're already talking about Expo, so here comes spring. That's it.
Eric?
Harbor Board met last week, and we reelected Dr. Reagan as the chair, the long-term chair. We decided, per Perry's suggestion, to meet monthly instead of every bi-monthly or 3, so we're going to do that. Rich made us aware of a lot of things. 49 trees have been removed in the last year, I believe it was, which was surprising to Jim and I. Jim was also on the board. I don't believe there's been any replacements made yet. Is that correct, Rich?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, I think that'll be part of our work this year, is to figure out where those trees should be replaced. Also, there's a $500 per tree removed fee that should be added to that balance of the fund, which hasn't been added yet, so a little bit of financial record keeping.
I don't think it's a removal. I think it should be that it could be between $500 and $600 to replace a tree.
Yeah, we were putting $250 each, light power and us for the trees that were removed.
Right.
We did that. Yeah, we put her,
Replacement
but for
cost,
replacement.
right,
So
right.
we did make that payment, I know that.
Okay.
I know because we did that last fiscal.
I know it doesn't reflect it in the budget that we have. I don't think it's been updated in quite a long time, and I know Rich will be looking into that, getting that updated.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's
we
been-
have that, yep.
Right. Lastly, each year, for Arbor Day celebration, they pick one business to plant a tree, and so we're looking for area businesses that would like a free tree, to celebrate Arbor Day.
Cool. It's good. Jim?
Low Light and Power met, kicked off the year. We had one outage, and so I think it was 0.9 with 5 or 6 additional 9s after that efficiency. I mean, other than a faulty little piece of equipment that caused water to get in or some moisture, and popped it and the crew was out there, I had them out by Napa Street out that way. So off to a great start for that part of it. Just a reminder that on February 8th at 5:30, the LCTV request for funding is due here at City Hall. Then we'll be meeting on around February 22nd to talk about how we'd like to distribute those funds this year.
Very cool.
That's right. That's it.
I did not go to Fire Authority. I was working. Mike attended for me because they were beginning discussion on the budget. So hopefully once I get a preliminary budget, Mike and I will go over it and I'll be able to present it here. And the search for a full-time chief continues. And we got an engine back that had a expensive pump replacement this far out of warranty. So for that bill to be coming on down. And no DDA yet for this month, right?
It'll be in February.
February, yeah. Questions on any of the budget or monthly reports?
I at least want to update on the budget. The budget, so normally around first of the year, January, about 6 months through, I really start looking at the budget to make sure there's not anything really irregular with it. I haven't I've noticed little things here and there, and I just address those with the department heads. But the big thing that's obviously coming is all the Ware Road expenses. They're not going to be cheap. We've had to use Sabo quite a bit for a lot of our public relations outreach. Also, we do have a attorney through Dickinson Wright who is specialized in PFAS, and her billing rate is not the normal Dickinson Wright rate. It's a lot more. So just understand that those bills are coming in. The only other thing, other than that issue, I mean the rest of their budget, there's really been nothing jumping out at me. The only other thing is that, like Mike mentioned with the fire authority, there's going to be a true up at some point during the fiscal year. There's some significant expenses, obviously with the truck repair that he mentioned, along with the issues with the former fire chief. There's going to be a true up, and then we plan on hopefully bringing the budget to you at the next meeting. So just wanted to let you know that.
All right, now you can do your city manager report.
Yep. So speaking of Ware Road, they did the first set of samples during the holidays. I believe they tested 8 sites. Basically, all 4 quadrants of the areas that tested. The good news is that of the 8 sites, there were no exceedances detected in any of them. There's still quite more sampling to go, but that was a positive sign that we didn't have any PFAS exceedances for the first batch of testing, but they're still doing it. And then also the next Tuesday, 6 p.m. right here, Eagle will be talking to the residents affected by the Ware Road to just answer questions and help everyone understand what's going to be going through this process.
What time is that?
6 p.m. here. Elected voter or registered voters in the city also should have received their notices about the 9 days voting. I know I got mine over the weekend,
I got mine.
so those are going out. Susie, are those dates on the website?
Yes, they are.
Okay. Also, we did receive an application today for the extension of the King Milling Industrial Facility Tax Credit. This was before we changed the policy in 2019. We'd granted 5 years for the warehouse for King Milling, and at the time we told them they could come back for the remainder. And then we changed policies, so they will be doing that. So I just got their application and I'm reviewing it right now. Snowstorm, excellent job. I mean, there's a lot of snow. If you saw the news, we got more snow than anyone, which is kind of a shocker, but yeah, it's been. I know the DPW guys have been working quite a bit, working real hard. I know they've been working really hard, and I want to thank them. They've done a really good job, because I can tell you this has not been the easiest snow to clear. So that
They were very pleased with it.
Yeah.
Because they were here from Friday all the way through Monday.
Yeah. And then also, we are in the process of beginning our grant application for Riverside Drive with Kent County. This is the year we're eligible for CDBG funds. So I'm starting that process with Kent County as we speak, and that's all I have.
Questions? No. All right, appointments. Craig, are you going to stay on line follow? Okay. Anybody have a problem with that? Perfect. Did you get?
No,
okay.
because we canceled Parks and Rec. Perfect.
Eric got kicked off DDA, but I got an application from Lisa Plank, who you all know. So that's an easy one. I don't assume there would be any objections to that. And Marty is checking with Bruce on planning. Parks and Rec, planning, DDA, land power. I'll get a hold of Greg too. And then we still need one for Arbor Board because that was a resignation.
There was one where Cliff was on, Perry called me on trails. Is that anything that you appoint or no?
Lara was
Lara?
the one Cliff took as a citizen.
He took it as.
Yes,
that
so
would
he's
need
supposed to be continuing.
Okay,
So I'll talk to him about that
Yeah.
too. I couldn't remember.
Yeah, I wasn't sure that it was
Yeah.
something we did look at. Perry called me, I told him, that's why I tried to send you an email.
And I think he was in
Contact me.
Detroit, but I'll check.
So,
with him.
yeah.
I'll give him a
Yeah.
number.
And another one that came across while we're talking about board appointments and stuff like that, a couple residents that came to me and asked me, how does the procedures go with selecting that? I said, normally it's posted on our agenda boards, and then once they put into it, you make the recommendation to us to that part of it? How does that officially work? They thought it would have to go to a full board vote to say.
No,
anything
generally
like
I
that.
do the appointments unless there's an objection,
Right.
but I don't think we've ever run across, I think the planning thing last meeting was the only time we've ever had two for the same spot. We've
It's
never
been a
had to
while
go through
since we've
that
had a
yet.
couple applications.
And we've never had anybody who was just, I don't want to discourage anybody who wants to serve the community. I don't think we've ever had a contentious appointment. or
Yeah, and I
one
told them
that's-
it's not a dictatorship. You see the stuff, give it to us, and then I said, if you went back and looked at the thing, we all said, yes, we agreed to that part of it, so.
Yeah, it's usually just general consensus, but
Correct.
outside of the vacancies that we've never had anybody that wasn't overly qualified, I think, for the boards they wanted to serve on. So we've been very lucky in that.
Well,
in
hopefully that
regard.
group is watching tonight, they can understand where you're coming from.
It's not a dictatorship. Eric, council comments?
Two things. Number one, I have to recognize Rich and his staff. The snowplow removal was just incredible. I live on the second floor, so I can see the parking lots being cleared all weekend. Early Sunday morning, early Saturday morning, 4 a.m. Monday morning. Darren, Cody, Ralph, Todd, David, Jeff, Todd just did a phenomenal job. So thank you to them and to you for leading that group. Just fantastic. And then second, I just wanted to mention water. And I know you as a group have done a lot of work over the last 3 years, at least on water. And when Perry got up a few meetings ago and mentioned just cooperation and just working together, and I know Marty is actively leading that effort. And I got a note from Dave Powell, who owns N-Work here in town. And I just want to share this note with you, just because it kind of echoes Perry's comments and gives us fuel for continuing to work on the water issue, just the water issue in whole, for the whole community. And so I'm just going to read this to you. Just a little bit of background. N-Work did a huge expansion a couple years ago, and they had some issues with the water and the septic and getting permits and all that. So they are just outside of the sewer system here, and they had some struggles with the permitting. I mean, it was successful, but
They're not connected to our water or sewer at all, just so you're aware.
right,
Not-
yeah, they're not.
Through any fault of ours.
No, because they're not in the city.
Right, they're out of the city, and then I just want to mention also a realtor, Todd Pearson, mentioned to me recently that he knows of a number of large businesses, large employers that have shied away from the area because of water issues. Now, I know it's not, we can't do everything with water, but there are, the water is a big issue, as we all know. So I just want to read this from Dave Powell, and I just thought it was good. Quote, "It is in the best interest of everyone involved to partner together on this subject to make Lowell and the surrounding area great for the next 100 years. The townships and the city should work in harmony. We all have friends, relatives that live in all respective sections of Lowell, so ideally we could operate as one big partner on this. Lowell businesses need Lowell residents, and Lowell residents need Lowell businesses. All are equal. I hope you can identify win-win scenarios to make this happen. As a Lowell Township resident and Virgins Township business owner with lots of Lowell City employees and friends, I hope this can happen. Additionally, solving this will improve the environment as well." So I just thought I'd share that as we continue to work on water this year. I will leave it at that, so thank you.
Jim?
I met with Mike and Rich to talk about the expo earlier in the week. It was last week, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Last
Tuesday.
week, yeah. And so we're making some progress. We'll be sharing a booth with the police department is together. I don't know what that looks like. So anyways, we got some ad going. They're looking to get some swag to giveaways and stuff like that part of it. So hopefully everybody can attend for a little bit. I'll be working a couple booths that day, so hopefully you can stop by and support the booth on the 23rd of March.
Yeah, perhaps we get a schedule just going, then I'll also probably be in front of the
Yeah,
table
you'll be
as
in a
well,
couple
so.
of ones too.
Yeah.
I know Marty will be at a couple.
Downtown.
Yeah, do you guys have a booth there too? Building meetings at Expo?
We do not this
You
year.
do not, okay. So, otherwise, that's it for me.
Oh, me. What? Where'd my note go? I wrote too many things. Oh, no, I didn't. Listen, it's been a long week.
It's only Tuesday.
It was a long week last week.
Okay, now that.
I wanted to also echo about the DPW, and then I also just wanted to say it is moments where we have no control over weather or something happening to our community, and it is just so. I find it very humbling when neighbors are helping neighbors. People are posting on community chatter that they have a snow plow, that they have a snow blower, if you need help getting gas. So it is, it's always those moments where you're kind of like, oh, I don't want to go shovel. And then you see your neighbor shoveling your other neighbor's driveway, and it gets you up and going. So that's cool. That's it.
All right, I'll echo everyone's sentiment about the DPW. I had some Titanic sinking icebergs left at my approach, and Jeff came over and took care of them for me, and when I was coming home from work, hit the city limits and it was plowed. And kudos to Light and Power, because Friday and Saturday, I had to let people stay at my house because they're consumers customers. So maybe next time, you just take a switch for me and I can say, oh, sorry guys, power's out, I can't stay here. So I had a house guest thanks to you, Charlie. So I'll be sending you a bill for that.
Hopefully they spend some money in town.
They did. They did. All right, I'll look then for a motion to go into closed session to consider material exempt from discussion or disclosure by state or federal statute 15